Ladies and gentlemen, call this meeting to order. The Mayor and Board of Commissioners for June 30th, 2026. Can I get the roll call, please?
Emily Kleiner,
Here.
Mayor Marion,
Here.
Frank Dowling,
Here.
Augie Pearson.
Here.
Let the record show you have a quorum.
Will you rise with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In light of a prayer this evening, many of you have seen on social media, for those of you who are watching this who may not have seen, we were deeply saddened by the loss of Cecil County's first county executive, Terry Moore, who was a very close friend of mine. Terry passed away after a courageous battle with cancer. So I'd like to have a moment of silence in her honor. Thank you. All right, first on the agenda is the consent agenda. Town Administrator, do you have that?
Yes, you have the approval of the May 12th town meeting video summary, and then the upcoming town meeting, which are Tuesday, July 14th, and Tuesday, August 11th.
Could I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a
motion.
Seconded.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passes, thank you. Moving forward into public presentations, the fiscal year 2027 budget. Town Administrator.
Yes. So, not much has necessarily changed since we last met with the budget back in April and May. We had two different discussions at that time. Generally speaking, this is another illustration of holding the line, so to speak, if that makes sense. In terms of, when you look when you look at the general fund, it has a projected total revenue of $3,736,722 and expected expenses of $3,729,832 for a positive cash flow of $6,890. In general, the budget holds the line with staffing. And what I mean by holding the line with staffing, we have vacancies in the police department and we have vacancies within our public works department. Those positions are projected to be filled this year. As we've done in the past, we budget for things in the past, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we go out and spend for those items. We're also projected to hire a replacement code officer or building inspector. That is something that we've been carrying since our last code officer retired back in 2022, I guess it was. And the reason why we have held up on doing that is because of the delay in the development in the community. So we didn't want to bring on any unnecessary expense until we get more of a confidence level of the timing of when the development is going to happen. This is not a matter of will the development happen, it's a matter of when will the development happen. And we're going to talk a little bit more about it tonight and then in future meetings. There are some needs in the community that are popping up, which I know the chief can attest to this and the different commissioners can attest to it. The tolerance for bad behavior of certain property owners is getting old with their neighbors. And we're getting a lot of complaints about, what I will call bad neighbors who might not be very courteous with their fellow neighbors and the impacts that they have, in their respective neighborhood. So those are the kind of things that, a code officer will be taking care of also. Let me also segue for a second and remind you folks that we were able to submit a grant application to FEMA under a program called Building Community Resiliency, in which we are hoping to get FEMA to fund 2 building inspectors for the next 3 years. With all the expected development occurring in the community, there's going to be a very heavy workload in doing inspections. So fingers crossed that we will get awarded that grant. We have moved through the various levels of review and approval, and the application is still alive. So with that said, our general fund, to some degree, it's fairly vanilla of what we've done in the past. We do have some money set aside for street repaving. We've had previous loans in the past that have some residual funds left over that we can earmark for more street repaving. We were able to do some street repaving a couple of months ago, and there's a couple more projects that we want to continue with. With that said, I know there are folks who ask questions about maybe certain sections of our town that are in need of street repaving or are getting very close to it. And one of the reasons why we are hesitating right now is that another grant that we submitted was to replace all the undersized water lines in the Buckley, Cooper, Mount Street, and Pearl Street area. That is part of our original infrastructure. And as we know, we've seen the pictures before, we get a lot of water main breaks in there. And when you cross-section the piping, we have seen 4-inch piping, which is significantly undersized for a water system, have been reduced down to 2 inches in capacity. So we applied for grant money to replace those water lines. That is currently being reviewed by the Maryland Department of the Environment. If it is funded, repaving the street will be part of that. So this is another example of spending our money wisely. We don't want to be throwing money away by repaving a street now, just to a year and a half from now, tearing it all up again. So I wanted to segue to that. We have some replacement equipment that we talked about before in our Public Works Department. We have a couple pieces of equipment that are getting old. We have some other pieces of equipment that have some resale value right now, and so now might be the time to trade those in for newer, better models. One of those is a skid steer. We might be doing the Bobcat skid steer that we purchased like in 2012, 2013. So that's got a lot of mileage on it also, and it still has some resale value, so we might liquidate that and upgrade. We own Betsy, the big old red dump truck that's been around here for maybe 20, 25 years. That's on its last leg, and the Public Works people, Josh and his group, they are currently kicking the tires on whether or not we need a vehicle that big, that the replacement cost on a vehicle like that is estimated to be about $135,000 right now, and that's on a state contract. So maybe we could spend money more wisely and get, some different pieces of equipment, because right now the only thing we really use that truck for is hauling some blacktop in it and salt in the wintertime. But the truck is wearing out. Sometimes it's out of commission more than it's in commission. So we have a new loan in the budget We've allocated annual principal and interest payments for that, but we have some rough ideas of how we're going to allocate that money, but we're still making those decisions. It might be a skid steer, it might be the 5-ton dump truck, it might be a couple different things. We're keeping our options open. Does anybody have any questions regarding the general fund? All right, so I'll move on to the proprietary funds. And in the proprietary funds, we have proprietaries broken down into the water fund and the sewer fund. And right now, the water fund is projected to have revenue of $1,417,297 and expenditures of $1,396,641 for a surplus of $20,651. The sewer fund has projected revenues of $1,453,502 and expenditures of $1,453,224 for a whopping surplus of $278 there. Now, a couple notes on this, and you guys have done the budget with me for, Augie, you've been doing it for 19 years. I'm not showing the depreciation. In your budget sheet, you see the depreciation higher up in the category. Said differently, the sewer fund expenditures would actually be $2,193,224 as opposed to what I read out, which was 1.4 and change. And that's because of $740,000 of depreciation that, based upon government accounting standards, we have to show that as an expenditure, even though it's not a cash in, cash out item. And we always structure our budget as cash in, cash out. The auditing folks make sure everything else is good, but for the purposes of us planning going forward, we show what that depreciation is, but we roll it out of our totals because it's not a cash allocation. The water and sewer fund, I think it's important to remind everybody, years ago, when I first came here, we diversified how we do our budgets. And we figured out for certain cost centers, if you will, whether it be an employee, a piece of equipment, or the concept of street repaving or operating certain things, we have come up with percentages of what each of the different funds should be paying towards that. So when I was talking in the general fund about dump trucks and things like that, the water and sewer funds pick up some of those costs also. The water and sewer funds help pay for some of the cost of town hall here because the utility, said simply, the utility billing system and all the billing and the staff that does that is housed here in town hall. So you would want to have the sewer and water funds cover your insurances, your electricity, your fuel oil, and certain administrative supplies. So although they are separate, they also share a lot of expenses at the same time. The biggest drain on our sewer fund, and I think I've said this before, running a sewer plant is typically a losing proposition. A lot of governments try to get out of the business of operating sewer plants because they really can be a money pit that you just throw money into. And when you see our $278 surplus, you sort of get the idea why, compared to the water fund, which has a more robust surplus in it. One of our biggest expenditures is just the licensing requirement to operate the wastewater treatment plant. We're using a third-party vendor, and that's costing us every bit of like $296,000 that we're paying that third party. And in the past, And we still have on the horizon to potentially get into the area of hiring our own people to do that. But the workload at the sewer plant doesn't necessarily necessitate full 8-hour, 12-hour, 24-hour coverage. So quite frankly, it gets a little bit interesting to hire somebody who has a wastewater treatment operator's license who still wants to go cut grass or fix potholes or hang up banners and stuff like that. It's hard to get that kind of diversity in your hiring. So as the community continues to grow, and we are starting to pass the threshold now where the sewer plant does require more hours, I would predict maybe in another 2 to 3 years, we'll probably, if not sooner, be looking to bring in our own full-time employees to be able to fund that. And then hopefully we can start to realize a savings in that going forward. Does anybody have any questions on the sewer fund? There. So one of the other things that I've started to do here is I want to do more of a formal report to you guys on certain subject matters here. As you guys know, a lot of time I just sort of create this as I'm sitting here as thoughts come to my mind. But it's not easy to put that out in social media world for people to understand unless they watch the video. So tonight I'm starting a couple hybrid reports that I just want to wrap certain things up in a bow. So the first one is the fiscal year 27 annual budget adoption and financial outlook. And it's addressed to the mayor and commissioners and members of the public. This evening represents one of the most important actions the mayor and commissioners undertake each year, the adoption of the town's annual operating budget. The proposed fiscal year 2027 budget reflects several months of review, analysis, and refinement by staff and the elected body to ensure that the town remains financially stable while continuing to provide the level of services our residents have come to expect. The proposed budget is balanced and continues the town's long-standing commitment to fiscal responsibility. The general fund projects approximately $3.74 million in revenues against $3.73 million in expenditures, resulting in a modest operating surplus. Likewise, the water and sewer enterprise funds remain balanced with projected revenues of approximately $2.87 million between water and sewer combined and expenditures of $2.85 million, also producing a small positive operating margin. These projections demonstrate that the town continues to budget conservatively while maintaining adequate resources to respond to unforeseen circumstances and future capital needs. One of the most significant aspects of this year's budget is not what changed, but rather what did not change. The mayor and commissioners previously adopted a resolution maintaining the town's real property tax rate of 0.46 per $100 of assessed value, meaning no increase in the municipal property tax rate is proposed for fiscal year 2027. At the same time, the town continues to provide an unusually broad range of municipal services that in many communities are either reduced or funded through additional fees. These include daily police protection, weekly trash, recycling, and yard waste collection, extensive park maintenance, community events, code enforcement, planning services, street maintenance, and ongoing investments in infrastructure. Over the past several weeks, staff has also evaluated Rising Sun's financial position relative to neighboring municipalities throughout Cecil County. those comparisons continue to demonstrate that Rising Sun remains one of the most affordable incorporated communities in the county. Although every municipality structures its finances somewhat differently, our review found that Rising Sun maintains one of the lower municipal tax burdens while continuing to deliver one of the most comprehensive and robust service packages available. When property taxes are evaluated relative to home value using median effective property tax rates, Rising Sun remains below the Cecil County average and the state average and below the national average, reinforcing that the town continues to provide strong values for the taxes paid by our residents. So what I'm basically saying, and I've said this before, when you look at the assessed values of properties in our community that are based upon the ebb and flow of our community, the amount of money that a homeowner has to allocate towards the real estate taxes compared to the value of the home is lower than the national average, it's lower than the state average, and it's lower than the county average. Said differently, people are getting more bang for their buck in terms of the value of their home in Rising Sun. The town also continues to benefit from a growing real property tax base. According to the Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation, the town's taxable real property assessment increased by approximately 3.53%, representing more than $8.6 million in additional assessed value over the previous year. While that growth generates additional reoccurring revenue without increasing the tax rate, it is also indicative of something much more significant. Said differently, this doesn't just happen by chance that the values go up. The continued appreciation in property values reflects strong consumer confidence in the town of Rising Sun and the desirability of our community as a place to live, invest, and raise a family. Demand for housing within the town remains strong, with home values continuing to appreciate at a healthy pace. This success is not occurring by chance. Every dollar appropriated by the mayor and commissioners should be viewed as an investment in the future of Rising Sun. Through strategic investment in our water and sewer infrastructure, street resurfacing, sidewalk reconstruction, downtown revitalization, parks, public safety, and other quality of life initiatives, the town has continued to strengthen the community while making Rising Sun an increasingly attractive place to call home. The continued appreciation in property values suggests that these long-term investments are actually producing measurable results, even though we know it can take so long for the wheels of government to turn, and we've talked about that. As property values increase, the town benefits from a broader tax base that generates additional reoccurring revenue while allowing the municipal property tax rate to remain unchanged. This is an example of sustainable financial management, making thoughtful investments today that strengthen the town's economic position, enhance the quality of life for our residents, and provide lasting value for future generations. However, as with every budget, there remain several areas that the staff will continue to monitor closely throughout the fiscal year. Again, said differently, any business wants to have 6 months to a year and a half, depending upon who you talk to, of reserve funds. We, for 20 years, have recognized that we just don't have enough mojo right now to generate those large reserve funds to build them up. That will come in the near future, and part of the reason is that we are investing in our town's future to grow those tax bases and to grow that revenue now. So we're sacrificing building the reserve fund at a faster pace by investing in the town's infrastructure now to build at a greater pace in the near future. Basically trying to set the town up for long-term sustainability, for the next couple of decades. The largest financial challenge continues to be the long-term sustainability of certain operating expenditures, particularly those affected by inflation, contractual services such as a wastewater treatment plant, cost of electricity, which has affected every property owner in this state, and capital replacement needs, public works equipment, infrastructure maintenance, and utility system improvements remain significant long-term obligations that require careful financial planning. While this budget addresses current operating needs, staff will continue pursuing grant opportunities and outside funding whenever possible to reduce future impacts on local taxpayers. As I've said before, we currently have about $15 million of grant applications in the pipeline right now, which said differently is $15 million we don't have to go to the taxpayers for over the next couple of years. Another area receiving particular attention is the use of reserve funds. Although transfers from reserves are budgeted this year to accommodate anticipated capital expenditures and project timing, staff believes these transfers should remain temporary planning tools rather than reoccurring operating revenue. For the last 3 years, we have been projecting transferring reserve funds into our daily operations funds, but we've never had to do that. This year, we are very close. We've got a month to go for our next real estate tax revenue to come in. We have plenty of reserve funds to be able to keep the lights on. That's not an issue by any stretch of the imagination. We just pride ourselves on living with the cash in and the cash out, conservatively spending money. So we might have to dip in the next couple of weeks or so, but that will be paid back when we start the next fiscal year. Throughout fiscal year 2027, staff intends to continue evaluating expenditures and available revenues with the goal of minimizing reliance upon reserve fund transfers whenever practical. The budget also reflects several accounting adjustments intended to improve transparency between funds, including more accurate inter-fund transfers and improved allocation of revenues and expenditures. While these adjustments do not substantially affect the town's overall financial condition, they improve the accuracy and long-term consistency of the town's financial reporting. Guys, it's important to remind ourselves that over the years, we have balanced budgets on pennies, $10,000, $20,000. Our staff, Judy and her people, they do a great job of getting down to the cost of pencils. As ridiculous as that sounds, we track everything that we can so that we have a good feel of where the finances are going to go. And that's why we're able to continue to have good staff, provide Winterfests, the tractor parade, all the activities that we do is because we really have it down to a science of where all those expenses go. And Judy and her team are going to continue to get into the details of that. Overall, I believe this budget positions the town well for the coming fiscal year. It balances responsible spending with continued investment in public infrastructure, maintains stable tax rates, preserves essential municipal services, and continues preparing Rising Sun for anticipated residential and commercial growth. Equally important, it reflects the financial philosophy that has guided this organization for many years, spending taxpayers' dollars carefully, planning for the future, and making decisions that strengthen the town's long-term financial health rather than simply addressing short-term needs. I would like to thank the mayor and commissioners for their guidance throughout this budget process, our department heads for carefully reviewing their operational needs, and our finance department for the considerable work required to prepare this year's budget documents. Therefore, staff respectfully recommends adoption of the fiscal year 2027 annual budget and the accompanying budget resolution as presented. So the last thing we have to do is look at the budget resolution. I'm gonna skip through all the boilerplate stuff, because it's all pretty much been stated in the summary letter. And I'm gonna get down to the last whereas, and this is what we're approving for the next year. So the last whereas says, this budget will be based upon the following already established tax rates and service charges as follows. The tax rate for all real property not otherwise exempted and located within the corporate limits of the town of Rising Sun shall remain at 0.46 for each $100 of assessed value as approved in Resolution 2026-03. Number two, the Cecil County Department of Finance will continue to collect the real property tax and the debt service and utility tax listed on the annual real estate tax bill on behalf of the town of Rising Sun. The town will continue to provide a 2% discount upon payment in full of any real property tax if taxes are paid in full by the end of July 2026, and a 1% penalty each month for any payments received after October 1st of 2026 and until the balance is paid in full. Such taxes on land and improvements shall be computed on the valuation of said properties as certified to the town of Rising Sun by the Maryland State Department of Assessments. Number four, the tax rate for all tangible personal property of business, utilities, or contract carriers operating in the corporate limits of the town of Rising Sun shall remain at 0.90 per $100 of assessed value of all tangible operating personal property, including commercial inventory. I just want to let you know there are some communities in Cecil County that charge well over $1 and close to $2 for every $100 of assessed value in personal property. So again, we have one of the lowest rates in the county. And computing and levying such taxes on tangible personal property, the valuation of said properties as certified to the town of Rising Sun by the Maryland State Department of Assessments shall be used as the assessed valuation of tangible personal property. Number six, the town shall maintain one flat $384.36 debt service and utility tax assessment on all real property tax parcel that is currently developed or is vacant, not developed, but can be developed in accordance with the town's zoning codes, unless such property is declared non-developable and currently exempt is spelled out in Resolution 2016-10. The charges assessed against an individual dwelling unit and/or independent commercial space with the intent to have each unit cover a portion of the cost related to debt service financing of the town's buildings, parks, and property, past utility upgrades, vehicle, streets, and sidewalk restorations, and regardless of the types of services provided, the level of services, or the lack thereof. This assessment shall be reflected on the annual real property tax bill issued by the county and will be subject to the same discounts and penalty fees as real property tax. If a new dwelling unit or a business space is built, rented, or otherwise discovered after July's tax bills are issued, it won't be charged the debt service fee on the county bill that year. Instead, the town will issue a separate prorated bill to the property owner for that year and include it in the following year's county tax bill going forward. Number seven, the town shall collect on a regular schedule without extra charge all normal household originated trash and recycling from single-family dwellings in accordance with Chapter 7 of the Town Code. In addition, certain commercial properties and locations with multiple collection points may also be provided services in accordance with Chapter 7, with the cost for these services to be assessed in accordance with the town's fee schedule as adopted and modified by the Mayor and Commissioners. Number 8, some revenue projections as shown in the budget are related to fees as indicated in the town's current fee schedule or set by resolution from time to time by the Board of Commissioners. Number 9, the town's utility rates will continue to follow the prescribed pro forma plan for water and sewer is adopted by Resolution 2016-13 and as modified from time to time by resolution of the Mayor and Commissioners, with the rates to match the projected charges for the calendar year 2027 as shown in the town's water and sewer rate table. Discounts, number 10, discount for early payment of utility bills, failure to pay utility bills, building permits and other service fees due to the town will continue to be spelled out in the town's fiscal policy and adopted fee schedule, which can be amended from time to time by resolution of the Mayor and Commissioners. Therefore, being enacted and resolved that the Mayor and Commissioners of the town of Rising Sun wish to adopt the proposed fiscal year 2027 annual budget to include the tax rates and service charges as set forth above. Now therefore be it further resolved that the Mayor and Commissioners shall have passed, approved, and adopted this resolution on this 30th day of June 2026.
Can I get a motion to
I make a
approve?
motion to adopt the 27 budget.
2026-04. A motion's been made.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Thank you, Town Administrator. Moving forward into ordinance 2026-01, which is the soil erosion sediment and control
Yes.
ordinance.
So basically what you have, if you remember, we had entertained a grading permit ordinance back in April. And with the postponement of our June meeting, it's carrying forward to tonight. So again, I have generally a report covering this. Chapter 16, Soil Erosion and Sediment Control Ordinance. Mayor and Commissioners and members of the public, as everyone is aware, the town's development program has made significant progress over the past several years. The Planning Commission has been actively reviewing major residential development projects. The town has adopted comprehensive stormwater management ordinances, updated various land development regulations, implemented new development review procedures, and established the framework necessary to responsibly manage the significant growth that is anticipated within our community. This evening's emergency ordinance represents one of the final major components of that overall regulatory framework. The proposed adoption of Chapter 16, Soil Erosion and Sediment Control, establishes the town's local grading permit program and formally implements the procedures necessary for regulating land disturbance activities within the incorporated limits of the town. The ordinance is intended to protect public health, safety, water quality, and neighboring properties by ensuring that soil erosion and sediment are properly managed during construction activities. This ordinance is not intended to replace the role of the Cecil Soil Conservation District. Rather, it establishes a coordinated review process where erosion and sediment control plans continue to be reviewed and approved by Cecil Soil Conservation District as provided for by Maryland state law, while the town assumes responsibility for issuing grading permits, coordinating development approvals, conducting inspections where authorized, and enforcing compliance with approved plans and permit conditions. From a policy standpoint, this ordinance continues the town's long-term effort to exercise greater local oversight of development occurring within the town of Rising Sun. We don't want to leave it up to other influences to determine what may or may not be good for our community. We want to keep all that approval process in-house. For many years, the town has worked towards creating a more integrated development review process, one that allows us to better coordinate planning, engineering, stormwater management, grading activities, infrastructure construction, and ultimately building permit issuance. By establishing a local grading permit process, the town gains an additional level of accountability throughout the construction process. The ordinance provides clear permit requirements, establishes inspection procedures, authorizes stop work orders when necessary, requires financial surety for applicable projects, and creates enforcement mechanisms to ensure that approved erosion and sediment control measures remain in place throughout construction. The ordinance also better aligns the town's permitting process with Maryland law COMAR requirements in the State Stormwater Management Act, while allowing the town to coordinate grading permits with stormwater approvals, land development approvals, and building permits under one comprehensive process. Members of the mayor and commissioners may recall that this ordinance was originally presented during the April town meeting. Since that time, the document has undergone final review and refinement with the Maryland Department of the Environment, Town Attorney Jay Gullo, and our town engineer to ensure consistency with state requirements and the town's recently adopted stormwater management regulations. Because several development projects are progressing towards construction, staff is recommending adoption of this ordinance as an emergency ordinance, which is provided for in our code, so that the grading permit program becomes effective immediately. Doing so will ensure the town has the necessary regulatory authority in place before significant site work begins, and will complete one of the final pieces of the town's comprehensive development management program. Therefore, the staff respectfully recommends approval of Chapter 16 as presented.
Can I get a motion to approve ordinance 2026-01 as an emergency?
I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2026-01 as an emergency.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. More discussion?
No.
I think town administrator laid it out. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It passes. Thank you. All right, town administrator, a few more new business items. Fee schedule amendment, resolution 2026-05.
So as part of the adoption of the grading ordinance, there's a provision in there that we are able to charge a fee for receipt and processing of those applications. So you have our standard boilerplate fee schedule amendment language. I'm not going to get into all the details of it. It gives you the whys and why we're doing it and the authority to do it. But if you go to page 2 of the document, all we're basically doing is creating a new letter at H, as in Harry, for Article 6 that's going to have the heading of grading permit. And item number 1 is mass grading permit. We will charge a $200 application fee for handling that application and ensuring that the engineering firm reviews everything and that it matches up with the Soil Conservation District. Said differently, under state law, we can't issue a grading permit until Cecil Soils reviews everything and they sign off on the features that a developer or person has to put into place to control sedimentation and erosion. So said real simply, when you see a construction site with the orange silk fence in there, we're talking about those types of things. And when they do grading, they can't grade in a manner that forces large volumes of water to go off into a neighboring property. And then when the development is done, they have to grade it to what the elevations call for. So as you can imagine, when you're building a new home, you're tearing that building lot up and you're putting mounds of dirt all over the place. So we just want to make sure that we have, we're charging a fee for that. So that's basically what this is. Item number 2, under the stormwater, under Chapter 16 that we just adopted and according to the state law, a developer has to present a performance bond or guarantee on that. So said differently, if a developer comes in and takes a couple hundred acres of ground and starts doing the grading, and for whatever reason, they go belly up, they decide they don't want to do it, we have money to restore that to mitigate any of the damages that are created. So we're just letting the applicant know that they do have the performance surety, and then we're also reminding them that they are going to pay our town engineer or town attorney our costs for reviewing their application. And believe it or not, I just want to say that we recently had one of the developers question why the town was passing along the fees of our town attorney and our engineer to review their land development applications, almost like suggesting that the thousands of dollars that are spent to review their plans for their benefit should somehow be paid for by the taxpayers of Rising Sun. So that's a little odd for someone to take that position. So we're just once again reminding them in here that they're on the hook for all of those reviews. So that is resolution 2026-05.
I make a motion, we accept resolution 2026-05.
Second it?
It's been moved and seconded. Pretty self-explanatory. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes, thank you. Moving forward into the Cultural Performing Arts Street Lamp Productions Initiative.
Yes. So now for this, I'm going to go up to the podium because this is more of a report. I think it's just a little bit better for me to come up to the podium because we have the display over there. And there's a couple items the mayor and I have been talking about, and we wanted to formally address the community on some of these items. So another one of the reports I have is titled Creating Opportunities Through Community Investment, Strengthening the Town's Economic Ecosystem Through Historic Preservation, Arts, Culture, Tourism, Community Engagement, and Downtown Revitalization. So the purpose of this report, in recent weeks, many residents have become aware of discussions involving street lamp productions and the future use of the former Presbyterian Church property located at 19 East Main Street. As interest in the project continues to grow, questions have naturally arisen regarding the town's vision for the property, the role street lamp productions may play in that vision, and how the facility could benefit the community. The purpose of this report is to provide background information regarding the town's investment in the property, the long-term objectives that guided its acquisition, and the reasons why Street Lamp Productions has emerged as a promising partner in helping transform the facility into a community destination focused on arts, culture, education, recreation, tourism, and community engagement. Why the town invested in the former Presbyterian Church a couple years ago. When the town acquired the former Presbyterian Church property, the decision was driven by much more than the desire to preserve a historic structure. While the preservation of an important community landmark was certainly a significant consideration, the town also recognized a unique opportunity to invest in property capable of generating long-term benefits for residents, businesses, and future generations. The former Presbyterian Church property occupies a prominent location within the heart of our downtown and contains one of the most architecturally significant public spaces within the community. The former sanctuary provides a unique setting that cannot easily be replicated today and offers a significant potential for educational, cultural, recreation, civic, and community-oriented uses. The town also recognized that preserving the building would ultimately require identifying a sustainable long-term use capable of generating activity, investment, and public support necessary to maintain the facility for future generations. Simply preserving the structure itself was not enough. The building needed a purpose that would allow it to remain active, relevant, and beneficial to the community that it serves. To help guide that vision, the town has conceptualized the facility as the Rising Sun Cultural and Performing Arts Center, a multi-purpose destination designed to support arts, cultural, education, history, recreation, tourism, and community engagement while preserving one of the community's most historic landmarks. The property's downtown location also creates a unique economic opportunity. Unlike many community facilities that are isolated from surrounding businesses, activities that are hosted within the Cultural and Performing Arts Center have the potential to bring hundreds of residents and visitors directly into the heart of Rising Sun. Those visitors do not simply attend a performance or event and leave. They dine in local restaurants, purchase goods and services from local businesses, attend other community activities, and contribute to the vitality of the downtown district. In this way, the facility can serve as a catalyst that helps generate activity and investment beyond the building itself, strengthening the interconnected economic ecosystem that supports a vibrant and sustainable downtown. From the outset, the town viewed the property as an opportunity to preserve an important part of Rising Sun's history while creating a sustainable destination capable of generating economic activity, supporting downtown revitalization, and serving future generations. Achieving that vision requires identifying uses that not only generate that activity, but also complement the unique character of the building itself. The former sanctuary, as we know, was designed as a large assembly space capable of bringing people together, and many of the features that make the space architecturally significant today are best preserved when it continues to serve as a venue for these educational programs, performing arts, concerts, lectures, and everything we want to bring to the center. The facility also provides an opportunity to expand and enhance the town's preservation efforts. Plans for the building include housing the town's Historic Preservation Museum and incorporating local history exhibits and educational programming into the broader activities taking place within the facility. By combining arts, culture, education, and history under one roof, the facility has the potential to create a unique destination that celebrates both the community's heritage and its future. In many respects, the most successful long-term use of the building is one that both protects its historic character and allows it to remain. Said differently, we've had folks that have wanted to move into that church. We had people who wanted to buy that church before we did. It would have been drastically modified, and it would no longer maintain that historic, benefit that it has to the community. So what we're looking to do is to create an initiative that best provides those services. So what we're looking to do is partner with Street Lamp Productions. As the town has explored opportunities for activating the former Presbyterian Church property, Street Lamp Productions has emerged as an organization that is positioned to help advance many of the objectives that originally motivated the town's investment in the facility. Funded by Rising Sun native Laura Woods, Street Lamp Productions has grown over the past decade from a small local youth theater initiative into a respected regional nonprofit organization serving children, families, and audiences throughout Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and New Jersey. They have several satellite locations that they operate out of. Laura's connection to the community and to the former Presbyterian Church property itself extends back decades. Just like a lot of residents in our community, she attended Rising Sun High School, participated in activities within the church as a young person, and was married in the sanctuary nearly 30 years ago. What began as a local theater camps and community performance has since evolved into a year-round performing arts organization offering educational programming, youth theater, community theater, camps, workshops, private instructions, and full-scale theatrical productions. Street Lamp has demonstrated that meaningful arts programming extends well beyond theater productions. What makes Street Lamp particularly attractive as a potential partner is that its mission aligns closely with the town's long-term vision for the former Presbyterian Church. The organization is not simply seeking a larger performance venue, it shares the town's desire to create a vibrant destination that supports arts. So what is our path going forward with Street Lamp Productions? The long-term vision for the Cultural and Performing Arts Center extends beyond any single program, event, or organization. The goal is to create a sustainable public resource that strengthens downtown activities, supports local businesses, preserves an important historic landmark, expands educational and cultural opportunities, and enhances the overall quality of life through life within Rising Sun. We're having a lot of discussions with Street Lamp Productions, and they are going to be able to bring, basically, for lack of a better way to describe it, a 365-day-a-year recreation outlet to the town of Rising Sun, where both small groups and large groups could use that facility for various events, and then those people then dump out into the downtown area and go to the local businesses. You can tell by the image that we have up there, the town successfully secured a grant to build a new patio around that. This again is another example of what I always talk about. We get the grants. It takes a while for the grant money to be released. We've had that vision for going on 3 or 4 years, and maybe we jumped the gun at times saying, hey, it's coming. It's because we're excited by it, but we have to wait for the ink to dry on the funding issuance there. So we are hoping to be breaking ground on this deck towards the end of July in the early part of August to build that deck. That deck is designed to be a public space for local businesses that maybe if you go to Rise and Grind and you can't find a seat in there, you come in here and you sit on an outdoor patio. Events could be held there. Street Lamp Productions can hold different shows, and that's where the parents and the kids can gather after the wonderful shows they're going to provide, and people can unwind there. So there's just a lot of amazing things that can take place in this church. And after several years of working on it, we are right on the cusp of having it happen. So there's a lot of information here. A lot of it I did not cover in the report. I am going to put it out on my social media page so people can get a little bit more details on what exactly we're looking to do. Our goal is to enter into a public-private partnership with Street Lamp Productions, which would mean they're not just going to be an entity that's renting space from us. This is what I think is important. You look at some communities in Cecil County, and we talked about it with our budget restrictions that we have here and how we're trying to bring more services. I think there's a wonderful opportunity through public-private partnerships to create a very robust park and recreation element to our community, that as opposed to having to hire quality staff and pay lots of salaries and multiple staff people to provide park and recreational activities, which might be summer camps at the parks, things like that. Those are great programs, but what if under a public-private partnership with Street Lamp Productions, where they come under the auspices of the town of Rising Sun so that we can get grant monies in the future for them to grow their programs. And they occupy the space. They will be paying us rent on the building that will cover electrical and insurance and different things. But the benefit we're going to get from them is providing that 365-day-a-year hypothetical calendar of things that people can come to and enjoy through a park and recreation program that's not going to require the town of Rising Sun to hire multiple staff to have to do that. So that concludes that report.
Cal, the only thing that I would add in there is we originally had money that we were going to use through a federal grant, and we repurposed it, and then we were able this session to get an additional amount of money from DHCD. And I definitely want to put something in there about the relationships that we've built to try to get those funds.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
all right, moving forward into the sustainable community update.
So this one here is, I think, a very important report to talk about building a sustainable future for Rising Sun. And this report aims to try to tie together all the things that we have talked about over the years and why the town has made certain investments. And when I gave you the budget report, I talked about how every dollar that the elected body invests in the community is what's growing the tax base. And I think it is fair to say that there is a very healthy consumer confidence, if you say it that way, in the town of Rising Sun. We have houses that are selling for just tremendous amount of more money than what they were built for back in the 2005, 2006 range. We have good quality housing that's not even staying on the market very long before people are buying it. People want to get into this community. They want to send their kids to our schools. And there's a methodology of everything that we've been doing over the years that is designed to lead us to that. And a good way to put a ribbon on it is, as the mayor just talked about, when you apply for grant monies, there are certain obstacles that any local government will run into. You have to check a box. And for instance, when we go for infrastructure financing through MDE, it has to be in a priority funding area. And I've talked about this before. The state of Maryland, like a lot of states in our union, they don't want to be pumping out a lot of money to local governments that don't really have a good game plan on how they're using that money. And one of those is suburban sprawl. And we've heard in the past of what suburban sprawl is. So to put that in a nutshell here, suburban sprawl for the town of Rising Sun would be for us to annex a whole bunch of land, let's say out by 272 at Calvert Nursing Home, and build a 500-home subdivision, and that becomes part of the incorporated limits of the town of Rising Sun. It's sprawling, it's going out uncontrolled. And so the state wants to make sure that any money that is being given to local governments is in a priority funding area. It's in the comprehensive plan, which we've talked about in the past, is a roadmap of what we have to do. And then the other box we have to check is a sustainable community designation. And the town has had this sustainable community designation in the past, but we had to update it recently. So I'd like to take a few minutes this evening to provide.
Cal,
Yes.
can I please ask you to just summarize it?
Okay.
We've got a lot more to go over tonight, and since this is going to be posted on your website, they could read it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Basically, what this is doing is it's outlining all the things that we plan on growing in the town of Rising Sun. It mentions Street Lamp Productions. It mentions why we made investments in sewer and water in the past. It explains the investments we made in the Chester water line, the wastewater treatment plants, It explains some of our investments that we're looking to make through state subsidies in running water to West Nottingham Academy, the efforts we're trying to do with Plumpton Park Zoo. It basically lays out a roadmap that when we apply for funding for these projects in the future, the state has confidence that there is a rhyme and reason to why we are doing that. So that concludes my report.
All right. Moving forward into staff reports. I'm gonna move this around just so the town administrator has a break. Chief, you go ahead and go.
Okay, a couple things I wanted to cover, I'm not gonna be long. We've got the 4th of July coming up, and as with every holiday, we have the problems and the issues of fireworks in the community. You gotta remember that in Maryland, ground-based fireworks are the only legal fireworks unless they're put on by a major production company, and permitted through the State Fire Marshal's office. So, setting them off in our communities this weekend is going to put a lot of people in danger because we are still in a drought. We still have a tremendous amount of dryness, and you can start and will start brush fires. So let's not do that this weekend. And also the noise. I know people complain and others don't really care about it, but there's a lot of animals, for one, that fear fireworks. There are a lot of veterans that are triggered by fireworks, and we have a great deal of both in our communities. So let's be courteous to those guys, and remember, you are putting a lot of people in danger when you set off fireworks this weekend because it's extremely dry out there. Even though we've had some rain, we're still in a drought, and it's extremely dry. The next thing was, let me gather myself since you were out of order. Our new guy, I'll just give you a brief update on the new officer. He's out and about patrolling on his own, and I'll refer to it as baby steps. In the law enforcement field, it takes quite a while before you really get, and I can't just say law enforcement, but any field, it takes you a good amount of time to actually get a good feel as to what you're doing out there by yourself. And we're getting him there. It's baby steps. He's out patrolling on his own, answering calls on his own, but you don't really have that 100%, feeling of I know exactly what I'm doing. So we're still guiding him and teaching him, and he's doing a great job. He's going to be a tremendous asset to this community. We have identified another candidate for an academy. He has 2 more steps in testing, physical agility and a proficiency test that he has to undergo, and I'm confident that he will pass both of those, and we should be looking forward to having him in the academy very soon, within the next couple of months. It depends on where one starts. I guess I'll end with that since I kind of lost track of where I was, unless there's any questions. I did give you a couple things. I gave the board a couple things. The calls for service that we had for the last 3 weeks since we canceled a meeting, and the numbers from the speed cameras. You can see exactly what types of speed come through and so forth from those reports I gave you. And that's my report unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Town Administrator.
The only 2 items I wanted to bring up is we've had residents concerned. I talked earlier about property maintenance issues that are popping up. And I think there's 2 things that are very important for residents to understand. One is when it comes to abandon or people who just disconnect themselves from their property and walk away. As much as we would like to think that the town could just go do something, there's a process that's involved in that. and we have to do our due diligence, if you want to look at it as due process. We have to go through a lot of due process. And even when we go through that due process, that's, although codes say that you could go and we say we're gonna go on the property and we're gonna mitigate the issue, there's a lot of roadblocks and, booby traps, if you will, in doing that. So we have one particular property, 107 Mason Run, there, we've had a heck of a time notifying the past property owner that's walked away. We've sent certified letters, we've posted, we've done everything. And the backyard is out of control, and we're gonna get aggressive about going on the property tomorrow and getting that cut. And then we're also gonna put it on a reoccurring schedule to have it cut, if not every week, every 2 weeks going forward. The other item that I wanted to talk about is Pierce Road. And yes, the town recently took ownership of Pierce Road, and there are a lot of potholes in there that the county never fixed in there. But the issue that we're running into is that road is probably gonna see upwards of maybe 1,000 cement trucks over the next 3 to 4 years with the Knutson development kicking off. So I could give you an example of a road that's not even as long or wide as Pierce Road. That's gonna cost us every bit of 115 to 120,000. So I would imagine that Pierce Road would probably be $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 to repave it. We're just gonna end up throwing money in a pit because of the construction that's gonna take place. With that said, we are bringing in a contractor in about another 2 weeks to take the most egregious areas and mill those down, tack coat them, and then put blacktop in there. We have been throwing cold patch in those areas, which is like the least effort you can do at that point. We don't want to just throw blacktop in there without milling it and putting the tack coat. So I guess said differently, we're going to spend a little bit of money here to do a good repair on a much smaller area so that we're not throwing money down a pit. In the
Cal,
future.
one question.
Yep.
On any property we go in and do property maintenance on, we are gonna file mechanics lien against the property, right?
And yes, basically it's a mechanics lien, but we don't stamp the deed. We have provisions in our code that we will not stamp a deed on a transfer of a property until all bills, taxes, service charges to the town are paid.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Assistant Town Administrator.
What I have provided you today is financial revenue versus expenditures on all the funds year-to-date. That's going to be pretty accurate because we have posted all of our 630 expenses and created a 630 revenue. And we do have to keep the books open for 60 days after the close of the year. We're closing today as the close of the year. We have talked to the auditors. They will start early September. They'll start our audit. And you also have a list of all the checks that have been created for the past 60 days with the status of those checks. A couple of things I wanted to actually make everybody aware of. We did include in the utility bill a physical schedule for trash and recycle. So if when you get your bill, when you get your hard copy bill, you may want to put that somewhere. And we also are posting it on our website, so you can find it there as well. Volunteers. We have a lot of things that we do in town that require volunteers, and I'd like to at least say to the community, if you have time, we'll take any amount of hours and to help us with the events and things that we do. And last but not least, we have a great ability to communicate with you and talk about the residents in email format. So please check your account, make sure we have an email address for you, and any communication we need to get out immediately, we can send an email to you and have it in your home right away. So that's all that I have.
Would that account be the same one for like the water and sewer
Yes.
payment account?
Yes,
Okay.
it is. And it, like I said, we can get an email out to people right just within minutes if we need to.
Thank you. Moving forward into the mayor's report, a few things since we haven't met for a little bit of time. I wanted to give a huge shout out to the Rising Sun Chamber of Commerce for an amazing Sunfest. They did a fantastic job. The weather was wonderful. Frank, everyone that you guys worked with, it was just a fantastic event. So a huge shout out to the board of directors and everyone involved in Sunfest this year. Just a great event. I also wanted to remind folks that we have an upcoming event that we had to postpone, which is our America 250 parade. We have reopened entries for that. It is now scheduled for August the 8th at 10 a.m. We have close to 35-ish entries, and we're hoping to get a few more, everything from tractors to fire companies to floats. We are super excited for that. I also wanted to say that we all, the elected body and myself, as well as our staff, attended the Maryland Municipal League Summer Conference, which was in Ocean City. This year was a special year because we actually had 2 staff members that enrolled in our Academy for Local Governance with the University of Maryland. They really enveloped themselves into classes, and it was great to see. Some of us, including myself, have graduated from that academy, know how useful it is. It was just wonderful to have their presence there. This year was also special because I was voted as the president-elect of the Maryland Municipal League. This is the first time since 1963 that somebody from Cecil County was voted in as president. They typically vote a lot of folks that are from larger cities and towns, but I am honored by their confidence in me and look forward to serving as president. This year I will be serving in the president-elect capacity, which will give me an opportunity to shadow the new president, who is from Bladensburg. Her name is Takesha James. I look forward to listening and learning and working with the MML Board of Directors on initiatives that are going to help all municipalities throughout Maryland. I also wanted to give a huge shout out to our Public Works crew. They are getting ready to decorate for the July 4th holiday. I know it's going to be hot, and we thank them so much for all that they do to make our town look better. Moving forward into commissioner comments, Commissioner Dowling.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll pass the thank you on to the chamber members who helped to organize Sunfest. It's a small group that do a lot of heavy lifting and make a huge event possible. Even though I'm involved in the chamber, I'm not part of that small group that does the heavy lifting. So, but I'll make sure that they know that you thank them. Past couple of weeks, we were able to attend mayor, commissioners, and chamber members some ribbon cuttings, welcome new businesses in town. Garvin Family Butcher on Telegraph Road, we had a great turnout for their ribbon cutting. And then the Nation Gym in the Martin's Tractor Supply Shopping Center. So we welcome those new businesses to town. We wish them great success. We should have a ribbon cutting scheduled in the near future for Sonny's Toy Box. They wanted to wait until they got their sign complete, which was, I think, finished today, and looks beautiful. And even though they've been open for a little bit, we'll have an official ribbon cutting and welcome them. So, as always, encourage our residents to support our local businesses, because not only are local businesses, most of them are our local residents and neighbors as well. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving forward into Commissioner Kleiner.
I also attended the Maryland Municipal League Conference. It's a great time to network with other elected officials and staff and agencies too that we interact with. We're working on grant applications and other concerns, so it's really great to be able to talk to them in person and also meet representatives from other towns. I also wanted to mention there are some new stores that have opened up in Garden Girl, a new bookstore, and there's a plant shop, and they are looking for ideas to fill some other spaces there, so be sure to visit them. And lastly, I believe we have a planning commission meeting on Monday. Is that correct, Calvin? Or is it the next Monday?
It's the following Monday.
That's what I thought. Okay. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Pearson?
I have several things tonight. First of all, very positive note, we have received a $38,000 state aid for police protection grant that the chief applied for. The next thing, over the next at least 4 or 5 days, we are going to have some very, very hot weather. And hot weather not only affects the young residents, it affects the older residents also. Fortunately, Cecil County will be opening a cooling center for basically anybody, young or old, at the library, and it'll be Wednesday from 10 to 8, Thursday from 10 to 6, Friday and Saturday 10 to 5. Utilize it if you do not have air conditioning. Even if you do have air conditioning, utilize it. See, I can speak from experience, the number of people that will have major health problems because of this heat. Unfortunately, now comes the bad news. Recently, we've had a lot of problems with dirt bikes running up and down Main Street. Just a reminder, that's not legal, and you are susceptible to finding out what happens if you get caught. You will not be happy with the results. So keep your dirt bikes where they belong, in the fields.
Commissioner, can I add on to that? And I'd like to speak to those parents that are listening. If you bought your kid one of those UTVs, the dirt bike or whatever, and we catch them on the road with it, we are going to charge you with permitting them to use it on a public roadway. So it takes the fine away from you and your child that may not get in trouble and put it on to you, because you are the responsible one that should be telling your child, no, you cannot ride this on the roadway. Okay? That's, just wanted to make sure parents were aware that we will be fining them.
Okay. Now, fireworks. As the chief has already said about the legality of fireworks, everybody and their brother sitting in this room and are listening to this know that there's going to be people that are going to use aerials. The problem with aerials right now is the extreme dry. Unfortunately, through my retired career, I've had house fires start from aerials. I have had field fires start from aerials. The weather just right now is not conducive to using an aerial firework. Too many things. You don't think about it, but your roof right now is very dry. And an aerial that lands on your roof can cause major problems. So not only from that aspect, but remember, the people that are coming to put it out are volunteering. They're wearing heavy equipment in this 100+ degree. Unfortunately, again, I have tragically seen what happens to first responders who suffer major medical catastrophes from the hot weather. And last but not least, Calvin, didn't we talk about painting the water tower?
Yes,
Can you give
that's
me
in, that's in the budget,
in the budget?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But we haven't put it out for bid yet or anything, have we?
We've informally met with 2 vendors. We're trying to see if we can get more.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Thanks, Augie. And just to follow up, the water tower has become an eyesore. I mean, a lot of folks have seen it. A lot of us have received messages. I know that there's a post that's currently on a message board regarding it. We are working on it. We are looking at the best financial option for the town residents and us to pay for it. So we hope to get that done within the new budget cycle.
Yeah, well, let me just add that right now we have a price of over $500,000 to paint it, so it's not a simple paint. There, not to mention the fact, another thing that influences is weather. If you can imagine, different types of weather, if the outdoor temperature is different than the water in the tank, they've got to drain the entire tank down. The tank will be down for probably at least 30 days, if not longer. So we have to coordinate with Chester Water. It's not insurmountable, there's just a lot.
A lot that goes into it. Yep. All right, thank you. On the agenda, you can see the Board of Zoning Appeals and Commission schedule, as well as upcoming town events, holidays, and our trash, recycling, and yard waste schedule. Before we adjourn, one of the things that I just want to put on the board's radar and Calvin's is we may have to talk about potentially rescheduling the July 14th meeting due to a demolition ceremony that we're going to be hosting with the DHD secretary. So please look out for a potential reschedule on that date after the board and staff have talked about it. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
All right, I think Kleiner got you, but it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.